place where you can learn so much from the others who are here healing, as well as from the people who are here to teach you.
I have so much more energy. I recovered from so many pain, and I do a lot more than I used to do in a day. And now I'm a happy grandmother.
The orchestration that goes on here at Hippocrates is unbelievable for people at all levels of health. Everyone that comes here leaves a completely different person and the next evolution of themselves.
Every time I need to check in and to make myself well, I fly to West Palm Beach and I come to Hippocrates Health Institute.
It's something everyone should experience once in their life.
This is the place to be. There's no doubt in my heart and soul.
So if you are thinking of coming on a wonderful vacation, come to Hippocrates. I mean, the journey to yourself is one of the most important journeys you'll ever take. And they'll help you do that here at Hippocrates.
Hope you enjoyed that. So you took a trip to Florida. Wasn't painful, was it? Now the good news is that half the people that come to us today are healthy. Isn't that amazing? And why, unfortunately, is they've seen their mothers die. They've seen their fathers suffer. They've seen their neighbors get sicker. They've seen what we call modern medicine fail. And so that's why you fill a room like this today, because you're searching for not health and healing, but truth. And so we're about to give you truth. Modern science, unfortunately, which I was well endowed and studied in, has missed the target, because modern science pretty much looks at things in a very antiquated way. They don't look at you for who you really are. The people who read the wonderful mysticism and deepness of Judaism know about the etheric body. You know what that is? Your energetic body, your soul. And we now, in this century, the 21st century, are actually proving what people spoke about thousands of years ago, millennia ago. At Hippocrates, I became acutely interested 35 years ago in the fact that since we were all failing in medicine to help people with cancers and Parkinson's disease and multiple sclerosis and diabetes, and on the list went, there was no light at that end, that everything was at best moderate little improvements, no big improvements. I said, well, look it, we're treating the physical body. How about if we start to treat the real body, the energetic body? And so that's the voyage we're going to take right now. So if we could, again, put the lights down. We put the lights down around the perimeter. It makes it easier for the people to see. Somebody's putting the lights down out there? Okay. So universal healing. Here we are going through the universe. And as you see, it's endless. Now, one of the mistakes that we make, we're going to talk about in a minute here. As we get closer, here it is, that little earth that we're on. The universe is an endless gathering of energy that we have named and labeled in our own restrictive imagery. As we draw closer to Earth, the 5 basic components that establish order that we can identify are molecules, atoms, protons, neutrons, and the most important here, the elusive string. Now let me explain each slide what we mean. That we, because we're so absolutely insecure and out of control in science, and have now rendered you to understand this, think of everything in a structural way. So when a doctor, by the way, looks at a disease, let's say cancer as an example, or viruses or bacteria, we look at them and say, let's find a way to remove them. In the case of a cancer tumor, we go in and cut it out and make believe it disappeared. And sadly, statistically, 93% of the people that are treated medically for cancer have cancer return, and most of them die from cancer. Because the magic is not making it disappear like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat, but it's making the origin or the cause go away.
And all of that disorder, being it a virus, a bacteria, a microbe of any type, or a mutagen, cancer, came from a source, and it was abnormal energy. But we, to make everyone understand what's going on, look at things in very mundane ways, like molecules. If you look around this room, everything you see is pretty much a molecular structure. Below the molecule, when you look a little deeper, is the atom, and then below that, the proton and neutron. But the great quantum scientists and mathematicians and statisticians today realize that there's something we do not see. This is what you could actually call the spiritual realm, because we don't know what else to call it at this stage. That we absolutely have proven 20, 30, 40,000 times exist. The structure of matter. Molecules are the surface of any structure that is like the shell of an egg. The second layer, the atom, is the interior, with the nuclei being the proton and the neutron. Ultimately, this is all generated and possibly created by the invisible string that we are quite likely to be the origin of the universe. Life as we know it, and the expansive web of connectivity that governs all. So now, let's talk about that. And I wish the Palestinians understood what we're now going to say. That there is a connectivity. That, like it or not, we are connected with a piece of sand. We are connected with all of those planets that you saw, which are endless. Humans have come up with this very sad concept that there has to be a beginning and there has to be an end. There has to be limitation. There has to be boundaries. And the truth of the matter is, in the pure essence of God and spirituality and science, that there is no beginning and end, and there doesn't have to be. We are connected to all things, and our source of healing comes from everything, not just medicine. The beginning of life on Earth, and what you're actually looking at there, is a microalgae. When God wanted life on this planet, he put these single-cell life forms here. And this is actually called a blue-green algae. And life as we know it was created after that because blue-green algae creates oxygen. As life began with the evolution of time, what we know as vitamin C and nitrogen spawned microalgae. So we as scientists evaluate what's really happening on a spiritual realm. We can now prove to you that, by the way, what we today call vitamin C, obviously that's the name we've given it. It may not be vitamin C. Along with nitrogen, created the blue-green algae that gave potential for all of us to live on this planet now. And in that blue-green algae, something was very interesting. It's called the chloroplast. Microalgae contain chloroplasts that drew the energy of the universe and one of its planets, the sun, into its womb. Now think of the words I've just used there. When I think about life, I think about women. I think about the mother. Because there is no question that the woman, the female, is the origin of all life. And so these very first life forms that we have here were no different than the woman. But where they got their energy, these very single-cell life forms, is from all of the universe that we see, and the most important planet that's closest to us, called the sun. Because all sun, all life, comes from the sun. Now here's a friend. This is why every time we go to the bathroom, please make sure you wash your hands well. This is a bacteria. This gave birth to oxygen so that a limitless, wide array of other life forms could spring forth. And most of them were very positive. They were pro-life. Bacteria, an early life form, gave birth to millions of other plants, creatures, and even killer microbes. There are many in the biological community today who believe the evolutionary morphing of bacteria creates 2/3 of the human body. So in the big scheme of connectivity to life, when God wanted us to develop, we are co-inhabitants on this planet. Do you follow? We're co-inhabitants with other life forms. So the way we look, the way we act, the way we feel, all of that is a partnership with other life forms. Here's some other friends that are floating around inside of us. Pretty nice looking, aren't they? That's a virus. Unfriendly microbes like virus, with their innate initiative to use human cells as their host, work as a double-edged sword by strengthening our anatomical resolve. They're good for us. They make us strong. That's why even the conservative doctors will say, well, when your children get colds and they're not so bad, it's good because it builds up their resolve, their immunity. And that is true. But at the same time, it battles the immune system. So today, because children are so sick, the saddest thing I have in my life is in the 41 years I've done this, it used to be people my age in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that would be sick. Now, every day I'm working with a 10-year-old who's dying of a disease, a 15-year-old that's dying of a disease. Because we're totally out of control, people. It's not good enough to just say our spiritual life is in place. Our family life must be in place. Our biological health must be in place. All of it has to be in place. To honor God and life for what we have to take care of everything we were given as a gift. And today, when we have our children dying of diseases, and 2 out of 3 people in the West now that are contracting diabetes type 2 are children below 16, shame on us. When brain cancer is the second killer of children today, number 1 being accidents, shame on us. And so it's time we make radical changes. And if you think what we talk about here is radical, the way we live today is radical. It's insanity at its best. That you and I have been convinced and lulled into believing is normal. It's normal to eat bad food. It's normal to accept chemicals in our food. It's normal to spray our crops. Driving from Galilee the other day down to Tel Aviv, we had to shut the windows in the car because we were gagging from deadly chemicals. And how dare us sit back and allow this to happen? Because even if you don't like yourself enough to do something, our children are suffering. Autism, listen closely, went in 1983 from 1 out of 10,000 children. Now in the West, it's 1 out of 78 children. And I'll repeat this so you get how disastrous frightening this is. When we've gone from 1983, which is how many years ago? 30? 1 out of 10,000 to today, 1 out of 78. Shame on us. And we can say we love our children, but until we stand up and become examples, emotional, physical, and spiritual examples of truth, I don't care what you know, I care what you do. Shame on us. When the developed immune cell system fails, this is a cause for disease and potential demise. The liars in the pharmaceutical companies tell us things like we live longer than we've ever lived. Do you know how insane that is? That's insanity at its best. Because on the board now I'm going to put some real statistics, not opinions. Because I don't give opinions, I give facts. In the year 1900, 2% of the population in the West contracted cancer. Today, here in Israel and my country in Europe, 50% of us will contract cancer. That is a rise in 112 years of 48%. You think that's frightening? Listen closely. By the year 2050, we anticipate statistically that 67 to 68% of the population here in Israel will then have cancer. And by the way, Israelis will have more cancer than Americans even, which work really hard on getting cancer. We're terrific at getting sick over there. We're the best sick people in the world, by the way. But why you'll get sicker is because all of this mishmagash stupidity that's going on over there in the Middle East, they're putting nuclear waste on warheads now. And we get it But who gets it first? When the wind blows from this direction,